Hello, my friends. This is my hand out in my garden with a tiny little eggplant because I wanted to talk to you about parts of a flower and how they change as the flower gets pollinated, does its job, and eventually becomes a fruit. So let's think back to flowers that you've looked at before or flower lessons that you've had before. Remember that one of the parts of a flower is called a calyx. It's spelled like this. The calyx is something that not every flower has, but most of them do. The calyx is those little green leaves, normally green, that fold up at the base of the flower. They're like the thing that surrounds the flower when it's in its little bud form. They protect the flower as it's growing. And as the flower opens up, we're going to look at this little eggplant right here. As the flower opens up, the calyx ends up at the base of the flower. See that right there? Right above my fingers, that green part is the calyx. If we look at this flower that hasn't opened yet, right there, you can see that that is the calyx. Down there inside is the flower that isn't ready yet. It's almost like how an eggshell protects a baby chicken before it's ready to hatch. The calyx folds over the flower and keeps it safe. Now, if this flower is lucky and it gets pollinated and gets to do its work, then that means that the pollen is going to travel down to the ovary. That's inside, we can't see it. And that ovary is going to start swelling up. It's kind of down there in the base. And that is the part that's going to become the fruit. As it swells up, the flower is going to fall off. Let's take a walk over to my other eggplant and see one of those that is just starting to lose its flower. Check this out. See that eggplant right there? This was successfully pollinated. The flower got to do its work. Everything went the way it was supposed to. And down here at the bottom, this is the flower. It dried up and soon it will fall off. If you look at the eggplant next to it that's more developed, you can see right there that little like stemmy thing sticking out. That's the very center of what was left of the flower. And if you look at this eggplant over here that's a little more grown, that stemmy part has fallen off and all that's left is that little dent. That little dent is where the flower used to be. Now, as the flower was falling off and the eggplant was developing, check out what happened to the calyx. Remember that teeny little calyx that was green and protecting the flower before it grew? Well, once the flower did its job, the calyx didn't have to do the job of protecting the little flower anymore. It grew as the ovary swelled up and turned into the eggplant. Look, you can see where the flower used to be here too. And then it changed color. And what really fascinated me that I just learned this year, this is the first time I've ever grown eggplants, is that sometimes the top of the eggplant will have, there we can see it, spikes. Do you see some of those spikes on the top edge of the calyx of the eggplant? Those things actually kind of hurt. Austin stabbed himself this morning while we were harvesting vegetables. Well, technically, we were harvesting fruits, weren't we? Since an eggplant is a fruit. That's all I wanted to show you for today. I would like you to follow up from this. Decide, do you want to draw a picture of a flower and see if you can remember all the parts? I reminded you of the calyx, but there are some other ones as well. Would you like to take yourself out into your garden and see if you can find flowers that are doing the work of turning into fruits? Maybe you can find some calyxes. Even if you aren't growing things that you would consider to be food, there might be some flowers in your yard turning into fruits in the botanical sense, like how a scientist talks about a fruit. Because remember, when a scientist says fruit, they mean the thing that used to be the ovary of the flower and it got all swollen up and it has seeds inside of it. So some of your just flowers that are living their life are busy making fruits right now too, even if they're not things we can eat. If you have another cool way you want to follow up, by all means, keep investigating. Maybe you even want to learn about eggplants. Where did they get their name? Why do they have a different name in Europe? Why are there so many types? Some are long and some are round. What's going on there? You could do anything you like, but find a way to follow up. And I'll see you around. Have a good day, folks.